I have to give a big shout out to today's sponsor, Young LA. I wear them all the time. Obviously, if you see me working out on Instagram videos and all that, I'm always wearing their gear. I've been wearing them for long before I was sponsored by them. They make you look good and they make you feel good. And with my code, you can get 15% off when you use code TRUE, TRUE, all block capitals, all one word, TRUE, at checkout. Big love to Young LA. The gear is class. Check it out. Get your 15% off and use my code. Welcome back to the kickoff, and thank the fucking Lord it's the last one of the season. Come on! Just a few months of not having to watch these absolute wastes of space ruin my life. I'm literally like so relieved this season's over. Like, I'm so fucking sick of watching this side. I fucking hate it. I don't hate it so much that I'm not going to buy the shirt. I still love my club. Bought a new classic shirt. Have you seen the state of the new one they've got? Oh God, wait till you see this. That one on the left is some abomination barcode bullshit. It screams relegation, that, doesn't it? You know when you look at a shirt and you go, next season's going to be bad. It's going to be terrible. The one on the right, that beautiful, classic, gorgeous looking shirt, that's a Juventus shirt. Adidas, for some reason, thought, let's do away with, you know, the century of tradition at Newcastle. Let's fuck around with it and just modernise it. Who at the club was like, yeah, brilliant, that's a good idea? Who spoke on behalf of the fans? Who decided for all of us that that is what we got to play in? Because somebody should have spoken to the fans at some point before making a decision to make us look that ridiculous and gone, do you think the fans will go for this? Do you know, like, they don't give a fuck, do they? They don't, this club, they don't give a shit. As long as we keep buying it, no one cares. Anyway, let's talk about this fucking game. I mean, bloody hell. Another defeat. 17, by the way, this season now. We've spent 700 million under Eddie Howe, and we've got the same amount of defeats as we had when Steve Bruce last completed a season in charge of Newcastle. Finished the exact same position. But Steve Bruce didn't spend 700 fucking million. I'm going to try and calm down. Because there's a lot I want to get through, right? But Steve Bruce got hammered by this fan base. And I get Eddie has won us a cup and he got us into Champions League. Irrelevant right now. You've just spent 700 million and had the same level of season as Steve Bruce got on a shoestring budget. We all hammered Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce outperformed Eddie Howe. Do you understand the reality of that? Because Steve Bruce got the same as Eddie Howe without spending 700 million. There's not a debate for that, by the way. That's a fact. Now we've got to go and play in this shit. I'm gonna lose it. Like, I'm actually losing it. 21 shots for Fulham. This is a game where you're thinking, our squad value is more than double this. We've just won a game. All right, it was against West Ham. And I knew when people were getting excited, I was like, oh, God, this is such a classic Newcastle thing. We play well against West Ham, Spurs, teams that are rock bottom, struggling. It's not a coincidence that we struggle against everybody else. Conceding 21 shots against Fulham. And you know what? I genuinely, and this is the thing that should like worry the owners the most. I plan my weekend around Newcastle playing. I love this club, right? People think whatever they want about me, you know, I rant about them, I get angry. I love this club so much. This is one of my favourite things to do is watch Newcastle play. I fucking hate it now. I fucking hate it. It's so boring. Soul-suckingly boring. There's nothing. I'm watching, there's nothing, man. Can I just stress that? There's nothing in this club to watch where you're like, there's something to pin your hopes on. The one little bit of something we seen, it was against West Ham, Voltemora and Osula. You've got one really technical, big, strong lad, one really athletic, big, strong lad. Maybe there's something there. But in order to get them playing together, playing well, you need service. I don't even want to go into how few assists our wingers have got this season. I think they've played 125 combined games. I think they've got about 5 assists between them. We're averaging an assist every 31 games from our wingers. When everyone's pointing the finger at our strikers, I'm like, we are so bad creatively. And this is something I've been going, even when Eddie was doing well, I was always saying creatively we're an abomination. We don't hold possession. These are the problems that are just so ingrained in Eddie Howe. And seeing the lineup, I'm like, oh God, it looked okay against West Ham. Like, yes, West Ham was shit. Why change it? And look, let's listen to what Eddie had to say.
Yeah, disappointing game. I don't think we were where we needed to be today, mentally, physically. Yeah, we're disappointed with the performance. We know we can play a lot better than that. It's a disappointing way to end the season.
How early, how late did it become apparent that Sandro couldn't play, and how much of an impact did that perhaps have on your preparations?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's during the warm-up, so very late, and yeah, it was a difficult team to pick today because numerous sort of issues and problems. Missing key players in key positions, so I thought it was a disjointed performance that you could see we weren't quite up to full speed today.
It was disjointed because Eddie consistently puts out disjointed teams because he never plays people in their proper positions a lot of the time. He's making out like we're missing so many key players, and that's the reason for the performance. That's what he's insinuating there. That's his excuse. All right, Livramento's injured. Kieran Trippier's on the bench. Put him in, that balances the side out again, and that enables you to keep your shape. You don't have to go to 5 at the fucking back. That was your decision. We've been playing with 2 centre midfielders and Voltemora in the number 10 role. I prefer Voltemora as a striker, whatever. That's what's been giving you a bit more balance in the side. So you only need 2 centre midfielders. You've got fucking 3 there. Ramsey, Gamirish and Willock in the side. You didn't need to go to a 3. You just needed 2 to maintain the same positions. I just don't understand how a couple of fucking injuries and you're acting like, well, it just had no other choice but to be disjointed. I mean, it was just one of them things. Such bullshit. And I've been hearing these lies and excuses all fucking season. Honestly, it's just as equally as boring to me as watching his fucking team play. And look, Eddie's team selections all season have been a joke. They've been terrible. The amount of games I've sat and watched where I thought, I can't believe how many players are out of position right now. It's absolutely absurd. I've seen games where you've had Joe Linton, a centre midfielder, playing on the left. Nick Voltemora, a striker, playing in centre midfield. And Anthony Gordon, a winger, playing a striker. All in the same fucking game. 3 players completely out of position for no fucking good reason. It's the actions of a complete idiot. And this is what's really shocked me about Eddie is because I had his IQ at a certain level in my mind. And he's done things this season that I thought, only a fucking idiot would do this. I'm literally baffled because I didn't think Eddie Howe was an idiot, but he's done so many things this season. Lewis Hall was nominated for Young Player of the Year. Do you know how hard it is to do that from left back? He is quality. Not always perfect. Young lads aren't always perfect. Funny old thing. But in terms of talent, he is right at the very top of Newcastle in terms of the potential of how far he can go. 1 or 2 players above him, maybe. He was moved from left back, his rightful position, the only position he fucking plays, well, to the bench initially. He was dropped for Dan Burn, who's a centre back. Then, in order to keep Dan Burn in the side at left back, he moves Lewis Hall to right back, a position he doesn't play anywhere near as well. Putting your best players in their best positions, it's one of the most common sense thing a manager can do, and it immediately makes your team better. It's something Eddie Howe has been struggling to do all fucking season. And it's funny, you watch like Michael Carrick come in and address the same problem that was there under Amorim at Man United. An immediate upturn. Eddie Howe is creating problems. Should be solving them, you fucking idiot. The guy's getting paid, £9 million a year to be our manager. The criticism is absolutely fucking needed here. Absolutely needed. And his actions this season have been so brain dead. It's left me stunned. He comes out with quotes. I'm picking my team now for the future of Newcastle United. He says things like that, right? This was a recent quote based on the end of the season and him trying to put a team out that reflects the direction this club is going in. In a number of those games, he had on the bench Alanga, Wissa, Voltemora, and Jacob Ramsey. £222 million worth of transfers that he signed off in the summer. And when we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I thought you were picking players for the future of this club. You've just signed all these lot for a fortune. He starts a lineup against Arsenal, and the justification this time is, well, I'm picking players who I can trust. Right, so you can't trust the players who you've just signed off £222 million worth of spending to get them. You can't trust them, apparently. But you said that they were worth £222 million. You signed that off. Okay. Mental. Who can you trust then? Let's take a look. The front 3 against Arsenal was Willock, Asula and Jacob Murphy. Now, the fact that that is our front 3 after 4.5 years of the takeover and £700 million spend is an absolute massacre on football. But let's just look at what the things Eddie Howe was saying. I'm picking players I can trust. I'm picking players for the future of this club. Joe Willock, 1 year left on his contract. If you trust him and he's the future of this club, why have you let him get down to 1 year left on his contract? And why have you got players on the bench who have massive contracts, many years left on the contract, but you don't trust them. Will Asula, signed him for 15 million, and you've tried to sell him since then multiple times, like 2 or 3 times you've tried to get rid of him. If he's the future and he's the one you trust, why were you trying to sell him a number of times? Why were you spending 130 million on strikers? Because you didn't clearly believe in Will Asula, and now he's the guy you trust. How does that work out? Jacob Murphy, 1 year left on his contract as well, the same as Joe Willock. You trust him so much that when you renewed his contract, you just upped his wages and didn't give him an extension on it at all, leaving him in a position where he can basically walk this summer no problem for pennies. 1 year left on his deal. Same as Joe Willock. You trust them so much, and they're the future of this club, clearly, because you're playing them, because that's what you said, and yet you've got £222 million sat on the bench in those games, and players who have ran down their contracts on the pitch. Do you know how fucking stupid that is? The man is an idiot right now. I don't know how else to say it. He's behaving like an absolute imbecile. I mean, playing Jacob Murphy, man, he may be one of the worst footballers I've ever seen. In terms of an attacking player, it's actually amazing how bad he can be. And if you're Anthony Elanga, you know what, mate? Eddie says all the time, I'm picking players based on how they're playing in training. Well, fuck me, Elanga, son. How bad must you be playing in training to not be able to get fucking Jacob Murphy out of this team? Because I tell you what, he plays like a fan who's won a fucking some sort of prize to get in the side for the day. He's touch, he's decision making. It's Sunday League level. I'm not even exaggerating there at all. I know that's really the sad thing here. Shocking footballer, him like. And I wouldn't care. He had a good season last season. It's amazing how bad he is. If you're Elanga and you can't get a game ahead of him, just retire, mate. This isn't for you, like, because if Eddie Howe is playing this guy ahead of you, I'm sorry, like, fuck me, you've got problems. So Eddie basically sold us, these are the players we trust. This is the Newcastle for the future. And then served up players who've been on the scrap heap, ready to be tossed out of the club for a number of years. Complete and utter bullshit. 700 million spent. We've got Dan Burns starting, Nick Pope starting, Willock, Jacob Murphy. It's absolutely scandalous, and it's all because this man did not want to recycle the squad, because he's extremely stubborn and has loyalty to a point of stupidity, which is why he's always trying to shoehorn Dan Burn into fucking left back and things like that. And then we hear well, he's never let us down. He's never let us down. And I'm not picking on Dan. I think he's been fucking unbelievable for the money we spent on him. But I tell you what, this last season, he's never let us down. You watch the Brentford game. That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a Newcastle shirt. Absolute, like, feeling sorry for him. It was that bad. And my favourite bit of the season, the bit I really was like, you know what, this club's a joke, isn't it? We're actually a joke. It's the excuses that kept being trotted out for Eddie, because I obviously went early on the Eddie's gone. This isn't going to work anymore. This is over. And it's the excuses that were made, and like it was when you watched other clubs and what happened to other clubs that the excuses for Eddie become more and more hilarious. Let's take Man United, right? Man United and Newcastle. Newcastle have been above Man United for the last few years, right? As a club, we've been outperforming them. When Amorim left, we were on exactly the same points as Manchester United. Since Michael Carrick took over, Man United have added 32 points to our 17. And it's funny because everyone goes about Eddie Howe, well, who could do better? Who could do better? And you look at Michael Carrick come in. We would never have thought, let's go Michael Carrick, right? That would never have happened because of what he'd done beforehand. But it just shows giving a manager a chance and a fresh set of ideas and actually playing players in the right positions. Even an inexperienced manager can come in and have an impact. The points per game for Michael Carrick was 2.3 points per game. Do you know what Eddie Howe's was? It was 1 point a game. The best bit was everyone was like, oh, but 2 games a week. 2 games a week, so hard for these professional footballers. So we go out of the Champions League inevitably, and since then we played 7 games and we've averaged the exact same points per game, 1 point a week, 1 point a game, 7 points, 7 games. So all of the training and the magic that Eddie Howe's he's going to work wonders. He's going to work wonders. Bearing in mind, the fixtures we had were pretty fucking good. Like, we played West Ham, for Christ's sakes. 7 points, 7 games. Relegation form, by the way. If you're not aware of that, relegation form. Another thing that they used to say is, oh, be careful what you wish for. We've heard them, all the pundits, you know, these fucking idiots, right? They don't even watch Newcastle, right? They never do. So they don't really understand, like, how bad it's gotten. And then, they're like, oh, like, it hits them later on. And they say, be careful what you wish for. Eddie Howe is a damn good manager, yada, yada, yada. And then you look at Bournemouth, a club Eddie Howe relegated after he spent quite a lot of money towards the end there. And the more money he spent, the worse they got. Sound familiar? Bringing a few bells, that, isn't it? And you see that they've gotten promoted of their own accord. They've reinvested a small amount of money into the squad, a fraction of what Newcastle have been spending, let's be honest. And Iraola has progressed them up the league constantly. And now they're in the Europa League. Could have been even the Champions League if things had gone their way. They spent a fraction of what Eddie Howe has spent on this Newcastle side. And yet they're in the fucking Europa League. They've lost countless players this season, including one of the best players in the side. Didn't matter because they've got a manager who seems to be a very good manager. And this, be careful what you wish for. Well, be careful what you wish for. Look at what Bournemouth have done. They got rid of Eddie Howe and they got better, which allegedly, according to these idiots, is impossible to do for Newcastle. Yet they've spent less money, far less money, and gotten way better than we have. And look, there was countless clubs that made Eddie Howe's project in Newcastle look an absolute shambles. Brentford, they lost multiple attacking players. They lost God knows how many goals from their side, from losing Wissa and Mbeumo. Didn't even stumble. They smashed us twice this season, finished above us in the league. They passed us off the fucking park every time we played them. And yet Newcastle, just last week in the press conference with Eddie Howe, journalists are still bringing up Alexander Isak as a viable excuse as to why this is such a shit show, man. When Brentford, who haven't spent 250 fucking million in the summer, have just moved on with life, adapted, shown, you know, what you can do with a good manager who can handle situations like that. As if no one's ever lost a goal scorer before in their club. Fuck off, man. Brighton, Fulham, all spending less than Newcastle, still outperforming us. And we can't forget, unfortunately, Sunderland. They made the fucking Europa League. You know, of all the things I could say in this video, that should destroy Eddie Howe's excuses. And I don't know how that meeting he had went, you know, when he had to meet the executives of the club, but anyone with a shred of football knowledge in that boardroom should have just went, well, how the fuck do you explain Sunderland then? You're making all these excuses, which he would have done. I bet he threw the players under the bus because you know what he's like. He never takes responsibility for anything. Sunderland got Europa League, and do you know how much they spent on that squad? About what we spent on Wissa and Elanga. About that. On the entire squad. They refreshed so many players they brought in. No excuses or too many players, all the shite that Eddie Howe comes out with of how hard it is to integrate. They more than double our players that we signed. Easily. Didn't matter. Smashed us twice and finished well above us in the league. Humiliation. I don't think that's happened for like 10 fucking years. They were in League One when Eddie Howe took over this club. He spent 700 million and Sunderland are finishing above him. And that's acceptable, is it? Joke of a club. Joke of a club. Bournemouth went 18 fucking games unbeaten, you know, towards the end of the season. Second half of the season, unbeaten. 18 games unbeaten. Without Eddie Howe. With Eddie Howe, we lost 17 games this season. But be careful what you wish for, yeah? Fuck off. Idiots, man, honestly. This season exposed one thing more than anything to me. As a football fan, how many people just talk absolute shit and haven't got a fucking clue what they're actually talking about? That's the one problem with football. It's so open-ended. There's so many players on a pitch, so much that can happen, that so many people just talk. They don't know a fucking clue what they're talking about. People even paid to do this. Mental, man. It's blown me mind. It's blown me fucking mind. And you know what? If there's any team that's really, really nailed it in terms of the excuses made for Eddie, that 2 games a week excuse, Aston Villa under Unai Emery have spent, and I am not exaggerating here, a tenth of what Eddie Howe had spent at Newcastle, Unai Emery. And the thing that Newcastle fans will say to leap to Eddie Howe's defence is, well, he had a better squad than Eddie. Eddie had to spend more. 10 times more. Does that equate to the difference, does it? 10 times more. Because I think you'll find when Unai Emery took over Aston Villa, they were in a relegation battle, just the same as Eddie Howe was at Newcastle. Might Villa have had a few players better than Newcastle? Maybe they did. Yeah, that's fair. But 400 plus million pound net spend for Eddie Howe to like 40 for Unai Emery, and Unai Emery, with 2 games a week, gets Champions League football and wins the Europa League. Something Eddie Howe has claimed is impossible pretty much in all of his excuse making. 2 games a week. Oh, well, we can't get on the training ground. Do you know with 2 games a week, I watch Aston Villa regularly produce repeatable patterns of play where you can say they are working on the training ground. You see countless corner kick techniques that they've used where they've clearly rehearsed them and they've scored multiple goals that have worked on the training ground. Newcastle have none of that. Even when we've gone down to 1 game week, we have nothing. 10 times less spent than Eddie Howe, Unai Emery. And he's produced 10 times the results this season. Fair play to him. Destroys the bullshit excuses. And you know what? A lot of people, they may disagree with some of the things I've said. Fair enough. Let's talk about what we can't disagree with. Let's talk about, in the words of Rafa Benitez, let's talk about facts. Only 3 clubs lost more games than Newcastle United this season, and it was the 3 clubs that got relegated. That's massive, That's the warning sign that your club is trending down and you're in deep fucking trouble and you need to make big changes immediately. And just coincidentally, those same 3 clubs also were the only ones to keep fewer clean sheets than Newcastle. So we're just defensively pathetic. We dropped the most points from winning positions because we can't hold on to a lead, because we can't hold on to a ball. Eddie Howe cannot coach possession-based football, which means you are never going to control games, which means you are never going to be a top side. That one sentence there should be played to the fucking boardroom and to make them wake up, and because they chat a lot about what their ambitions are. We're not going anywhere, man. Even if we get on a better trajectory next season, we have a bit of a run, it's never going to end up anywhere under Eddie Howe. He can't keep the fucking ball. Do you know how important that is? I'll tell you how important that is. The top 4 sides last season had the most possession in the league. It's not a coincidence. Possession is overrated in terms of individual games, but across a season, it fucking matters. And the teams that keep the ball the best, they win more. It's as simple as that. And Eddie Howe is terrible at that. And he's never going to be good at that. He doesn't even want to sign players who know how to keep the ball. He wants to sign a bunch of fucking runners. And when he does get a player who can keep the ball, like Voltemora, get out the side. And not only did we drop the most points from winning positions, we actually gained the fewest points from losing positions. You know why? Because Eddie is not good at figuring out teams. He's bad at it. We have one plan, and that was the high press and get you to create your own problems by struggling to deal with our press, and then you lose the ball in your own third, and we don't have to figure you out because we're already in behind. If that plan doesn't work, which it hasn't for a long time because he's been figured out months and months and months ago, we got nothing. Because in Eddie's own words, well, if you've got a plan B, you're probably not very confident in your plan A. You believe he said that? It's so funny because I've watched managers, even fucking Ruben Amorim, tactically fuck this guy and have a plan B and a plan C, and him scramble not knowing what the fuck to do. We also conceded the most goals in the last 15 minutes of a Premier League game. 20 we actually conceded that. And the reason for that is Newcastle start games okay sometimes because we got those runners, right? We got energy in those legs. Once the energy fades and the lack of technical ability in this side is exposed, we can't keep the ball, we can't keep running, and inevitably we concede. And it's the fact that I can see all these things and the fact that Eddie Howe is just still in a job no matter what. It's mental. Only Wolves and Burnley lost more away games than us this season. Even the relegation side finished higher than us in that sense. Because again, when you're away from home, you got to figure teams out. He's terrible at that. And one last stat is that this was Newcastle's biggest ever summer transfer spend. Ever. This is a club whose chairman claims by 2030 we are going to be competing for all the trophies. And yet, after 4.5 years of a rebuild, £700 million spend, we are right back where we fucking started. And tell me this, the owners, I'd love them to fucking answer this question. When does a manager lose 17 Premier League games and then go on and mount a title challenge later in his career? It will never happen. It's never happened. It's never gonna happen. Because managers who are elite don't do that. Not when you give them more time and more players. Things don't get considerably worse. It doesn't happen. It only happens if a manager has been completely and utterly exposed and that the progress you thought you were making, there were other reasons for it, such as a striker like Alexander Isak going into amazing form, but not a repeatable process. Eddie's been so exposed, and all of the data is screaming at these managers of this club, sack this man and give yourselves a fucking prayer to actually deliver what you claim you can deliver. Because going down this road, on this trajectory, it screams Eric Ten Hag, Manchester United to me. Yes, Ten Hag had a couple of trophies, but all of the signs were there that this was trending downwards. His team couldn't keep the ball. I called out years before it came as well. I called that out years before it came. Everyone disagreed with me. Man United fans disagreed with me. That man blew hundreds of millions of pounds and they're still recovering from it now. The exact same thing is happening this summer with Eddie Howe. They're scared. They lack the bottle. They lack the brains to go out there and do what needs to be done. So what they're going to do, instead of being brave, is they're going to give him even more money. And do you know what happened when they did that with Eric Ten Hag? A few months into the season, they made the decision they should have made in the first place, and then you saddled the next manager with a bunch of fucking players that he wouldn't have fucking wanted to spend money on. You might be saving yourself a hard decision now. You're making it worse for yourselves later. 3 clubs lost more games than Newcastle, and they were all relegated. That is screaming at you where this is fucking going. Any serious club who actually has ambition and really means what they're saying, A, they would have got the training ground sorted by now. They would have had the new stadium sorted by now. But B, they'd have made this fucking decision months ago after the Sunderland defeat. So if you guys can ignore all this data, these facts, by the way, not opinions, absolute stone cold facts. If you ignore this, no sympathy next season. We deserve whatever. And it might not even be next season. It might be the season after. It's coming because I've seen more than enough from Eddie Howe to know he cannot take us to that next level. No fucking way. 17 defeats. We've seen enough. Thanks very much, Eddie. Off your pop. It's over. You're finished. You know you're finished. Look at the fucking interviews. The lack of belief. The lack of spirit. The lack of we can, we will. It's gone, man. He knows it's gone. He's just hanging on for dear life. And actually, it would be better for him to just put him out of his fucking misery because he is not built for the expectations that he is having to deal with because he doesn't manage that type of football. He can't. He's meant for the likes of these mid-table clubs where the expectations are, oh, well, if we do all right, that's a bonus. He clearly can't handle this now. Anyway, fuck it. I've probably said enough there. I just needed to have one big last fucking vent and let that one go and hopefully enjoy the World Cup. That's what's coming up next week. And enjoy the World Cup. I'm going to have a catch up with the lads later in the week about how we all felt about the Premier League in general. If there's any specific bits of the Premier League season or topics that you want us to talk about, get it in the comments below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Appreciate all of the support this season on the kickoff. I'll catch yous on the next one.